A successful businessman wakes up in a hotel room to find his secret lover dead next to him. The door is locked, and there are no signs of forced entry. There aren't any witnesses either, and no way for anyone to get in or out. At first glance, the police can only come up with one theory. This hidden affair led to a heated argument, but the prime suspect refuses to admit it. He insists he didn't kill her, but this leaves everyone asking the same question. If what he says is true, then how did his mistress end up dead locked in that room with him? With all eyes on him as the prime suspect, time is running out for Adrián to prove his innocence, so he hires Virginia, a high-profile defense attorney, to take over his case. On a rainy night in Spain, successful businessman Adrián is visited by his new defense attorney, Virginia Goodman, for the first time. He's currently on house arrest since he has been charged with the murder of his mistress, Laura Vidal. Adrián lets Virginia in when she arrives at his place, and she immediately gets down to business. She informs him that the prosecutor found a new witness that might incriminate him, which means that Adrián must testify that night. But before they start, she makes one thing clear. He needs to tell her the whole truth. No gaps, no spin. Adrián thinks it over, then starts talking. He and Laura had already ended things when an anonymous caller ordered them to bring 100,000 euros to a remote hotel. They went. A message came through on Laura's phone, except it had been hacked, meaning someone else sent it. Laura figured out it was a trap. They started grabbing their things to leave, and that's when someone hit Adrián from behind. When he woke up, police were knocking at the door. He noticed a blood-stained ornament on the table. Then he looked toward the bathroom. Laura was on the floor, head injury, money scattered all around her. He rushed over and picked her up. That's the exact moment the police broke in and arrested him. Virginia listens to all of it, then shakes her head. She tells him to try again. He tries to dodge it. She cuts him off. She slides a newspaper across the table. In it is a story about a young boy who vanished near a mountain bridge. Adrián's face drops. The story goes back 3 months. Adrián had been lying to his wife Sonia, telling her he was in Paris for the weekend. He was actually at a remote cabin with Laura. On the drive back to Barcelona, they were already fighting. Laura convinced they were meant to be together, Adrián insisting it was over. He was eaten up with guilt. Then a deer ran into the road. He swerved, crashed into an oncoming car, and sent it into a tree. He and Laura got out. The other driver was a young guy named Daniel. Bad head wound, not moving. Adrián reached for his phone and Laura grabbed his arm. Daniel hadn't been wearing his belt. Looked like he'd been texting. Nobody saw it happen. "Just leave," she said. He knew it was wrong. He did it anyway. Then headlights appeared down the road. Laura moved fast, pushed Daniel down onto the passenger floor, and pulled Adrián aside. By the time the other car passed, they were just 2 people calmly dealing with a fender bender. Laura even answered a ringing phone to sell it. Once the car was gone, Adrián put Daniel in the trunk and pushed the whole thing into a lake nearby. He reported his own car stolen for an alibi. Laura waited by the road. A man named Thomas stopped to help. His car had caught a hedge. He offered to take Laura and her car back to his place to sort it out. She gave him a fake name, made up a story about visiting her sister, said she ran a bookstore. Thomas was friendly, easy to talk to, mentioned his wife, how they'd met through a theater club, how much he loved books. At the house, he introduced her to his wife, Elvira. Laura was looking at photos on the wall, old ones from their theater years. Thomas and Elvira were Daniel's parents. Before she could leave, Elvira got a phone call. Daniel hadn't shown up where he was supposed to be. She tried ringing his phone. Laura felt it buzzing in her own pocket. She slipped out of the room and hid it under a pillow, hoping they'd just think he'd left it at home before he went out. She made her excuses and got to the door. As she climbed into the driver's seat, Thomas watched her pull it all the way forward to reach the pedals. Someone much taller had been driving that car before her. He clocked it. Laura picked Adrián up and told him everything. They agreed on the spot. Never see each other again, never talk. A few days later, police walked into Adrián's office and took him in. Thomas had reported what he'd seen. Adrián stuck to the stolen car story and had his lawyer set up fake records, hotel in Paris, plane ticket, the works. He pushed to have his case kept separate from the investigation into Daniel's disappearance. Then the story shifted. Word got out that Daniel had run off after stealing money from work. Adrián cornered Laura about it. She admitted she'd taken Daniel's wallet and hacked his bank account, moving the money to make it look like he'd fled. When Adrián pushed back, she didn't flinch. Virginia stops him there. Laura was a photographer. She didn't hack bank accounts. Adrián replies, her husband was a banker. Maybe he helped her. At a business awards night, Thomas showed up pretending to be a journalist. He'd recognized Adrian's cigarette case, the same unusual one he'd seen in the car with Laura. He wasn't aggressive. He just wanted to know where his son was. Adrian denied everything and had him removed. He kept an eye on Thomas after that, saw him take his sick wife home one evening, and then Thomas dropped off the radar. Said he never saw him again after that. Virginia laid it all out. 2 dead, Laura and Daniel. The police only had 1 murder on their books. But Daniel's parents had been quietly putting the pieces together for months. To clear Adrian, she needed to understand what actually happened in that hotel room. Virginia asks him 3 questions. How did the blackmailer get a message onto his phone? If the goal was murder, why leave all that money behind? And how did someone get in and out of a room that was locked shut? Adrian has nothing. Virginia has a theory. Thomas was already in the room before they arrived. If they pointed the finger at him, the jury would buy it. He had every reason to want Laura and Adrian dead. But it only worked if Adrian came clean about Daniel. Then she spreads out photos from the night of the arrest. Elvira was there, standing in the hotel lobby. Virginia builds on her theory. Elvira worked at that hotel. She could have hidden Thomas inside beforehand and gotten him out after. Because Adrian's lawyer had quietly pushed Thomas out of the investigation, the police never went near his wife. Virginia gets a call. The prosecutor's witness, she told him, was the driver from the accident. She decides to make it all Laura's fault. Adrian was in Paris, got dragged into covering for her. Plant something of his in Daniel's car to complete the picture. Then she tells him she'd lied. There is no witness. She asks him straight why he has things from her. He admits it. He was testing her, seeing if she was sharp enough to help him set Thomas up. He says he had seen Thomas at the hotel that night, knew he was behind it. Virginia is standing at the window, looking out toward the lake, when Adrian says there is one more thing. Daniel was still alive when the car went into the water. It was Laura who decided to sink it. An autopsy would prove he drowned. He needs her help to manage that detail. Virginia goes quiet. Then she tells him her job is to keep him out of jail, not to fix what he is inside. She brings up Laura's medical records, severe anxiety. Then she offers another version of events. What if the guilt finally broke Laura? What if she called Thomas and confessed everything, then got Adrian to the hotel with the money as some kind of desperate repayment, and he killed her to shut her up? She holds up a photo, Thomas's wife. Then she nods toward the building across from his apartment. Thomas had been living there, watching him ever since Laura died. This was it. Adrian breaks down and confesses. He killed Laura. The whole story was a lie. His lawyer Felix leaves a voicemail just then. Virginia tells him to take 10 minutes and call back. Then she walks out fast. Felix tells him the driver has been paid off. The call cuts out. Adrian looks at the pen Virginia left, ink leaking. He pulls it apart. A microphone. She'd told him to switch his phone off because of signal interference. There was no interference. She wanted a clean recording. He looks across the street. Thomas is standing at the window. Virginia is next to him. Then she peels off the disguise. Elvira, Daniel's mother. She'd been there the whole time. They have his full confession on tape. They call the police. Moments later, the real Virginia Goodman is just pulling up to the building. Adrian stands there and doesn't move. Every lie he'd told, every corner he'd cut, every person he'd buried, it has all just been handed back to him. It turns out Daniel's parents somehow managed to catch their son's murderer red-handed, and now they have all the evidence needed. That's it for today's recap, everyone. But before you leave, I gotta ask, when Adrian started telling his story, did you actually imagine that he could have actually been the killer? Or did you see it coming from the start? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you in the next video.